I used to love fireworks. Done well, they are enchanting. Bright, dazzling patterns, the smell of sulfury smoke, the quiet sizzles and loud pops, even the rush of adrenaline you get when a deep boom catches you off guard. Fireworks are pure stimulation for the senses. However, as I've come to a deeper understanding of them, I've realized that their pleasures are not worth their price. There are many ways to arrive at this opinion, and I will not attempt to comprehensively summarize them here. Rather, I want to show you a little bit about what fireworks are like from the perspective of the other animals with whom we share the environment. Here in Berlin, hooded crows and an assortment of other corvids are some of our closest urban neighbors. They enjoy most of the same foods that we do, and the structures and parks that we design for our own enjoyment generally suit their needs as well. Each fall, many crows, rooks, and jackdaws migrate from colder places in the north and the east to winter communally here in Berlin. I frequently join them to learn about how they make use of the spaces in the city that we all share. On a typical evening, as the sun starts to set, they begin to assemble in pre-roost gatherings. Groups on the outskirts of town make their way towards the Fernsehturm, and when they fly overhead or pause at their favorite meeting points, crows from each neighborhood join in. Before long, they arrive downtown in their thousands. Depending on the weather and a variety of other factors, such as the availability of Christmas markets and construction sites, they will forage, socialize, and play together until it's time to sleep. This may seem like a strange and modern phenomenon, but in fact, crows have lived in our settlements alongside us and roosted communally like this since ancient times. The presence might seem new to us now because of a period of extreme persecution during the 18th century, when crows, and particularly ravens, were driven out of urban areas across much of the European continent. This recolonization of cities is therefore an opportunity to reset our relationship with these birds and build a better culture together. And that brings us to New Year's Eve here in Berlin and the focus of the rest of this video. Officially, fireworks are legal in Berlin just this one night per year. Although, realistically, people start acquiring fireworks leading up to the holidays in December, and they begin to go off each day and night with increasing frequency leading up to the new year. It's impossible for me to say whether some experienced crows take the increasing frequency of explosions as a sign to leave town for a few days. But the advantages offered to them by the city center are significant. If they knew a better place to be, they would winter there. For the many crows that did stay, their behaviors and meeting places changed dramatically. And some of the trees they had used extensively this year at Alexanderplatz were abandoned entirely. It wasn't until I climbed up high, overlooking a large graveyard area, that I could begin to make any sense of what was going on. What I saw was that crows had precious little time for foraging this weekend and few safe places to be. By mid-afternoon on New Year's Eve, it was clear that things were only going to get more intense. But what should they do? I suspect that many of them, especially young crows born earlier this year, have gotten together like this hours earlier than they normally would because they just don't know, and they're seeking the safety and wisdom of the group. As the sun begins to set, there is nothing like the typical pre-roost social hour. Many crows still zigzag their way towards the center of town, but large groups also fly the opposite direction, something I only see when they encounter clear and present danger at a pre-roost location. Different groups of crows likely attempt a variety of approaches to get through the night, but no being left in the city will be spared what is to come. As darkness falls, I set out by bike to see the conditions on the ground. The roost in Berlin is really a patchwork of different spaces, spread out roughly following the spree. Rarely do crows sleep the entire night at one location, but when a disturbance comes along, they can take off together and head for nearby rooftops and trees that they know to be safe. This system seems to work relatively well, but later tonight it will be pushed well beyond its limits as explosions erupt everywhere simultaneously. These trees, next to a quiet business school and government buildings with high security, are generally some of the quietest and safest available to the crows. So I was not surprised to find a large group when I arrived. But even here, turnover is high, and no crow can expect more than a few minutes rest before they need to flee again. The next morning, I found a firework battery directly beneath these trees that was labeled simply harder, faster, louder, with a promise to launch 120 explosives 50 meters in the air. After seeing the chaos at the roosting sites, I knew I had to climb up again and capture the view from the rooftops. Even with the incredible dynamic range afforded by my eyes, at first it was difficult to make out the dark shapes briefly illuminated as they darted past me. But once I began to spot them, I realized that there were innumerable birds of different species in panic all around. From this footage, the external intensity of the experience is clear, but only with our imaginations can we really share in the bird's distress. Picture this. You are covered in feathers that make moving through the air almost like moving through water. You feel the resistance on your skin. Because of this, you're deeply attuned to air currents and familiar with a wide range of weather conditions. Tonight, however, natural turbulence is replaced by heavy waves of energy, both sound and sensation, as objects the size of your head detonate and rip apart the air around you. Struggling to anticipate danger, again and again you must leap from your perch and burn through the energy that should see you through to the spring. Navigating through the sky at speed is difficult, but landing on a swaying branch while strobe fireworks interrupt visual continuity just seems impossible. And then there's the air, suffused with particles. Have you ever been biking or jogging alongside vehicles and gotten a lungful of exhaust so bad that you had to stop or change course? Birds, with hyper-efficient lungs designed to quickly get oxygen to muscles in order to meet the demands of flight, probably experience an even more dramatic version of this. And this smoke is not being created by carefully refined lead-free fuel designed to meet human safety standards. This smoke is the byproduct of intentionally incinerating a wide array of elements, including lead and other heavy metals. Consider how inadequate our safety standards have historically been, and still are, for humans, and then imagine what it must be like for animals smaller and more sensitive than us. Gradually, the smoke built up until it obscured all but the closest structures. And at this point, I was exhausted, my eyes stung, and things kept exploding too close to me. So, I packed up and retreated to the relatively clean air and safety of my apartment to catch a few hours of sleep. In the morning, I briefly ventured out once more to survey the aftermath. I'm not going to bore you with a long list of statistics about the thousands of tons of particulate matter slowly settling out of the air, or the hundreds of cubic meters of abandoned waste that will need to be collected. But I will ask you to spare a thought for the animals that need to navigate and forage in this toxic aftermath. And I think it's worth considering that we all share the same environment. Ultimately, we will all drink the same water and consume things that grow from the soil. If you've gotten this far, I ask that you consider doing what you can to encourage the algorithms to promote this video. And if you're working on conservation projects or research about urban wildlife, I would love to connect. Thank you so much.